Thank you, Dr. Robi. Our last speaker, this is the time. Wilfred Bet-Alkhas was born in Tehran, Iran. His family moved to Connecticut in 1979 and then to California in 1982. It was here when he met William Daniel, under whose guidance he studied the Assyrian language. Wilfred was co-founder of the cultural wave Nasiban in 1985 and served in various capacities. In 1990, Wilfred was twice appointed the Assyrian American National Federation Secretary of Education. In 1994, Wilfred founded an online magazine called Zinda, starting with just 12 subscribers. By 2005, over 30,000 subscribers from 45 countries made Zinda the most influential Assyrian source of news and information. The last issue of Zinda was published in 2009. Since August of 2015, Wilfred has been teaching an Assyrian language and history class at San Jose State University. Wilfred is a talent acquisition and HR technology consultant. He and his wife, Nina, and two children, Inanna and Inlil, live in Roosevelt, California. With pleasure, Wilfred Bet-Alkhas.
You know, I go to a lot of conventions. This is the first time I see so many young people interested to hear about this kind of stuff. I really applaud you for that. I love our language. It's the holiest thing ever created for me by anyone. It's so beautiful. I talk about the spirituality of the Assyrian language. But I also know that not too many of you do understand the technical terms we use in Assyrian, so if you don't mind, I'm going to continue speaking bilingually. I'll go back and forth between Assyrian and English. This is controversial because of ISIS. Because of ISIS, so many things have happened to the Assyrian people. We need to be controversial right now. And you guys, between the ages of 18 and 30, you have an incredible responsibility, 10 times harder than when I was your age. I'm not really that old, but it's amazing. You have no idea what's ahead of you. And so what I'm going to talk about is a very controversial topic because it is something that most people my age are afraid to talk about. It's about our national identity, and it's about a vision for our people. So I'm going to tell you what this is. This is my vision, and I'm hoping that some of you, it will have a reaction within some of you guys here. All right? Are we ready? Take a deep breath. All right. I go fast too. Naturally, I do that, not just because Dr. Edmund asked me to, but I usually talk very fast. And if anybody wants a copy of this PowerPoint, you can just email me. I'll send it to you for sure. All right. Our emerging national identity. This is our emerging national identity in 2016. We're Christian, Iraqi, Syrian, Kurdish, Chaldean, Assyrian, Syriac. That's our national identity. This is how the newspapers are writing about us. It's either Chaldean, Assyrian, Syriacs, or Christian Iraqi, or Christian Kurdish, or Christian. This is what we have become. And this is absolute nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. And this is why we need to change this very quickly. And this is what the talk is all about, how you guys will be changing this very quickly. This is what I call bushalit hiyayuta, the identity soup. It is. It's a bushala. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you talk to anybody and if they told you that they were Irish, Scottish, British, or Chinese Mandarins, you would laugh at them. And here's what we have done. This is what we have done to ourselves. So no one is taking us seriously. And no one is going to take you seriously 30, 20, 40 years from now. I'm telling you that right now. All right. This is the world. That red spot is where we are. Or we used to be. That's our homeland. Don't be afraid of saying the word homeland. That is your ancestral Assyrian homeland. You know what a homeland is? Is where our parents, our great-grandfathers, our kings and queens were born. There's nothing to be ashamed of that. It's our homeland. Yes, it's taken by the Kurds, by the Arabs, by the Persians, by the Turks, but it is our homeland. I loved it when I saw the word Assyria up there. You know what? You stop talking about Assyrian homeland. It's Assyria. That's your homeland. It's Assyria. If people don't like it, too bad. It's Assyria. And it is occupied Assyria. That place is occupied Assyria. I'll show you more about that a little later. That little triangle, the circle there, that's the first diaspora outside of our homeland. That includes places like southern Iran, Jordan, Lebanon. That's the first. Then we move to Russia. That's the second area of diaspora. All right? We have 5 diasporas. Make a note of these. All right? The third one was Europe. A lot of you are from Europe here. Yep, that was the third one. We moved to Canada and then to US in that order, and then to Australia. So we have 5 diasporas. When we talk about diaspora, it's not just one. Really, it's 5 different ones. They each have their own complex characteristics. If you think that for me in the US to be able to understand the diaspora in Europe, it's impossible. You guys even from Europe, you deal with Arameans over there. We don't even know what Arameans are in the US, right? You have Oromoyos, and we have something completely different. You probably don't even care about the whole Chaldo-Assyrian thing. We do on this side. You go to Russia, they laugh at both of us. They have Chaldeans and Assyrians together in one place, calling themselves the same thing, Assyrian. It's amazing. We have 5 different diasporas. And for me to prescribe something for one diaspora that will apply to all 5, it's impossible. Do you see how hard your job is over there? This wasn't the case 30 years ago when I was your age. All right? So, diaspora studies are showing that the resilient diasporas, the diasporas that are strong, they contribute to a strong homeland. And vice versa. Which means one does not exist with the other. You cannot have a homeland in 2016 without a strong diaspora. You know how the Americans do this? They call the diaspora the international companies. That's what it is. For us, there are no companies, it's our people. If you took all Americans and brought them all back to US, do you think that US would contribute to world economy and politics the same way as they are right now? Americans have diasporas too. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with having diasporas. But there's something missing in this picture. That square in the middle doesn't exist. That's the problem. And you know why it doesn't exist? Because my generation was too afraid to talk about it. They were too embarrassed, too afraid, too insecure, because they could have been killed. Not anymore. So, what are the factors that sustain and engage diaspora? You have to continuously have a desire to return. If you think Arizona is the final destination, you're making a mistake. It's not. You can live in Arizona, but you have to have a connection to your homeland. Do you know how people have connection to their homeland in Israel? They buy a place over there. They send their children to Armenia, to Israel, every summer. That's what I do too. I send my kids to Russia every summer, so they have a connection to their Assyrian families in Russia. We need to do the same thing with our homeland. That's it. There is no ifs and buts. Emotional ties to the homeland. Listening to an Assyrian song and getting emotional is not enough. There is more to it. We need to show this in action. Maintaining cultural values and traditions. Khigya and Janiman, and that's not enough. There's got to be more. You just saw what was being talked about, the art, the power of art, and the books that are being written, and how our spirituality. This is so important. These are all tying together, everything that you just heard in the last hour. And finally, something that all of us are guilty of, preserving language. Shame on us. We have not done that in a long, long time. So, how do we do that? You go to school. You go to school. That's how you preserve your language. You don't go to a church on Sunday between 11 and 12 p.m. and expect to be Assyrian speakers. No, you go to an Assyrian school. See, these are the things that we all know about, but none of us are doing anything about it. How to build the equilibrium. This equilibrium between the diasporas, the 5 diasporas, and the homeland. You maintain similar national identity, which is non-existent right now. You saw the national identity that we have right now, that Bushalet Hiyayuta, right? Is that the same identity as somebody in Baghdad? Absolutely not. It's not even the same identity from somebody in Sydney and somebody in Berlin and somebody else in Ontario. That's how messed up we are. Shame on us. Right? I'm telling you that, shame on me. What have I done to bring my children to a point where this is their identity? We need to improve security in our homeland to create this equilibrium. Who's going to go back and live 20 miles away from Mosul right now? Or 10 years from now? Are you kidding me? First of all, will there be a Starbucks over there? I mean, come on, that's what we think about. We need to make sure that our families, our friends, our people 20 miles outside of Mosul are secure. And every one of us can help. Every one of us. We need to require cultural education in diaspora. Enough of this 1 hour on Sunday Assyrian language classes. It's ridiculous. I was just talking to a friend of mine who will be talking tomorrow. He was saying the same thing too. He says we need to have hours. I teach a language class at San Jose State University. I have a difficult time getting 5 students from the entire Bay Area to come to that class. Come on. And we talk about the future of a Syrian nation. Let's be realistic. We messed up. And we need to increase investment in the homeland. This Gishru business is fantastic, but it cannot be maintained unless there is large sum of investment by every one of us over there. Because we don't just need to send our students back and forth. We need to send our businessmen over there too. That's more important. Trust me on that. All right. Now, what if more Assyrians emigrate to areas 2, 3, 4, 5? That's what we always keep saying, right? But Palti Kulumentama, they will. What about the diaspora cannot safeguard the Assyrian culture? Oh, come on. I'm not even talking to you in Assyrian language. What kind of safeguarding Assyrian culture is this? Shame on us. And what if the diaspora is not able to resettle in the homeland? Seriously, how many of you are willing to go back to the Nineveh plains in 10 years? 1 person, that's good. There's 2 of us then. Right? 3, perfect. I'm happy. 4, I love it. You guys see? This is it. Don't be afraid. Say it. People think that you're crazy, but you're not crazy. You know who's crazy? Those people do not want to keep 7,000 years of existence. Those are the crazy ones. That's what I tell my American students. I tell them, I say, it's your responsibility as Americans to go and live with me in 20 miles outside of Mosul. Like, why? I'm like, because we contributed so much to your civilization, and that's why you have these beautiful universities here. And I prove it to them. I prove that every letter of their English alphabet comes from our alphabet. And their jaws just drop. They have no idea. So we know that Assyrians will leave homeland. We know that we cannot safeguard our culture. And we know that we will not resettle in the homeland. That's how it is right now. So what are our options moving forward? Just have everybody come out of Middle East, live in those 4 other regions, and hoping that in 100 years, we're still going to call each other that ethnic Bushala of Hiyayuta. I don't know, people are, I swear, people are just dreaming these dreams. It's just amazing. You know, all cultures assimilate after 2 generations. All cultures. And we're talking about Germans and Italians, and compare that to our weakened culture. So the other option is that there's going to be a minority Christian ethnicity under Arab and Kurdish control, and the Arabs and the Kurds will love you for it, and they will give you everything that you want. Whoopee! And of course, what our political leaders are hoping is combination A and B. So we know that none of these are going to work. None of them. So what are we hoping for? The 4th option, none of the above. And this is what my generation is afraid of talking about, the none of the above. Because it's very political, and they don't want to hear it. So, what's the historic identity we need? This is where I start pissing you off and you start grabbing your chairs. Definitely not this bushala. This is not going to work for us. It's not. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what will work. Dr. bin Malik earlier said that I'm a HR consultant. What I do, companies with 10, 15 employees, they come to me and they say, we have a great product. We want to challenge Google. It's exactly as what we do now, what we are doing with ourselves. We are this pathetic little Christian community in Iraq and Urmi, and we want to challenge Ankara and Baghdad. And so people will go like, Nasha, mu hamzume. But what I tell these companies is exactly what I'm going to tell you now. Think like Google. Unless you think like Google, you can never challenge Google. You need to think like our ancestors. Do you know how Assyrians got to be the amazing empire that they were? They didn't start thinking localities. They thought like an empire. And do you know what they did to do that? They said, let's come up with one word that will define everything of that empire. Let's make our invisible God, our land, our existence one. And they came up with this most beautiful one word, Assyrian. It was their God, their land, their identity. And through 7,000 years, we have been slowly etching out pieces of this. And we ended up with the Bushala. This is where we have to end up. Not in Arizona, not in Krasnodar, Russia, not in Tokyo, Japan. That's it. Do you know why we have that? Because we all know about the beautiful song of Nishat Khume. It started in 1905. Freydun Aturaya sang about this. And in his song, he tells you the perimeters of this. He talks to you about Urmi, about Khabur. He talks about Turabdin. He talks about the areas in Iraq. And we ended up with that homeland, the image. So, what's the historic identity that we need? You've got to think big, and you have to think imperial. You have only one option, Assyrian. That's it. That's what you have to think about. If you cannot think Assyrian, you're thinking small. You are cutting yourself into small pieces. You're becoming religious, you're becoming ethnic, you're becoming everything but who you should be thinking of. Your imperial identity of Assyrian. That little spot over there, let me tell you, for security and resettlement, we need at least $40 million in the next 10 years. For your lobbying, we need $20 million in the next 8 years. These are the numbers you have to think about when you think big. Not this, no. This is what small people think. You have to think big. And for schools, 22 secular Assyrian schools, not religious. I don't want to hear about these the schools that churches are building. Secular Assyrian schools, you need $60 million. And we need 22 of them in the next 12 years. All right? All can be done with 12,000 Assyrians spending $1,000 a year for 10 years. Come on. You can't find me 12,000 Assyrians around the world to pay $1,000 a year to pay for all of the expenses I just mentioned? If we can't, shame on us. We're not even a people anymore. We are just fragments of something else. But I'm not here to disappoint you. What I'm doing here is to tell you that all of this is possible because we need to start somewhere. And where we start is a radical political ideology. It's very simple. You have to say the same thing that these Assyrians thought from 1910 through 2001. Naum Fakh talked about Assyrian unique identity, the exceptionalism. He was the first person to say, Aturaya, ile prisha from this Suraya, Surieta, all this. He said, no, don't be ashamed to call yourself Assyrian. 7 years later, Faridun Aturaya talked about an Assyrian homeland. In 34, Farid Nuzhat said, forget the ascendancy of our churches. Assyrian above all of that, above everything. And they actually excommunicated him from the church because of that. William Daniel, who was mentioned earlier, he was my Assyrian language teacher. He talked about Nineveh Khetta, building a new Nineveh in 1938. Imagine. And then in 75, Ninus Aho talked about the new Assyrian, Aturaya Khata, for that Nineveh Khetta. In 77, Ivan Kokovic talked about a provisional government for these people. And in 2001, Dr. Ashur Murad Khan said, we've got to go back. We've got to go back. All these people are pointing to the same thing, the new political ideology. We have to believe in the reestablishment of the Assyrian ancestral homeland, period. If you don't believe in this, if you are one of those companies with 10 people that want to challenge Google, you're always going to stay where you are. I'm telling that right now. And I'll tell you this, if you don't believe in a strong political ideology, you're wasting your time here. We have to believe in a financially, culturally, and politically powerful diaspora. We have to lobby the out of every center of power around the world. I don't care if it's Berlin, I don't care if it's London, Brussels, Washington. We have to. Do you know why we have to lobby? Not to get ourselves recognized. They all know who we are. Because we have to get them to pay for our existence over there. We should not pay that money. They should. They took it out of our homeland. They have to pay it themselves. That's why you lobby in Washington. That's why you lobby in Brussels. That's why you lobby in everywhere else. As simple as that. Strengthening the equilibrium between the 5 diasporas and the homeland. And believing in transforming, this is the big one, people, believing in transforming the homeland into a significant regional player. Not this, no such thing. A regional player in the Middle East. If that's not what we are thinking of, then guess what is going to happen? Another genocide, another huge escape from Middle East. All this requires one political ideology. And I'm going to sum it up in one word. It's the return to where we came from. I call it Ninevism. It's as simple as that. You are either a Ninevist or you're not. You either believe in the 4 bullet points up there or you don't. If you do, you're a Ninevist. And there's only one image that I can leave you with. The whole purpose of this, of Ninevism, is to change this, our ancestral capital, to a new Nineveh. That's it. Abitun Basim.
I really want to thank the youth for their patience. I know that we took their time and space, and they're all hungry. إكارخون كتيرتون داوشامن ويلفرد ألخاص جرى كل أمريكا يوروب لبلخلة إنهم زمياتو يبلا. So you're definitely coming to Los Angeles next, without a doubt.